Mike, it is Tuesday. It is 9 o'clock. We're here recording Falcon Forward. I have lost track of the episode count. It's been a busy 2 weeks. So for me, at least, July, my son's birthday, then my wife's birthday. She got her gift last week and was quite shocked by the wrapping. But nonetheless, it was a success. And then, BMX camp for the kids and just a lot of running the air conditioner here in California. Finally, it's in the 90s here in Vista. So excited to get together and talk. This week, we're just kind of catch people up on where Falcon West is for the year. We're and where we're at for the month and just so many great things going on. So, but first of all, how's your week going? I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think you're meeting up with Devin later today. Is that right?
I am. Yep. So I'm in the Northern California, Lake Tahoe, Reno area, and beautiful country, beautiful, beautiful spot. And yeah, looking forward to meeting up with an in-person with Devin here in a little bit.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we were on earlier today, doing our kind of our cold call prospecting piece, and the last couple of weeks. So I've kind of been, we've met, you, me, Jason, Myra had met up a couple of weeks ago just to kind of, I think, plan out like the last 2 quarters of the year and sort of the direction on things. And one thing that we'd kind of brought up was tracking our time. And it was something I hadn't done probably in a couple of years, which was like, take out a notepad and just have, every minute kind of logging what I was doing. So I started a new note on my iPhone and I started tracking my time. And it's funny to see kind of like how, like, I think I do a really good job at protecting my calendar. But I learned very quickly that was not the case. Just like the amount of phone calls I had that were kind of interrupted and switching from one task to another and all this. So made some progress there and just kind of deciding like what to stop working on. Like we had this podcast going, local energy, for a long time. Did 65 episodes straight, didn't miss a single week. Learned a lot for the oil and gas division of our company. Fantastic with Wade there. But just we're going to take a quick break from it and kind of see if it comes back to us. But today, what we really wanted to talk about, and we'll get into some technical insurance language later. But I just would kind of like to recap. This is really for our team to hear more than anyone else. And if you're on YouTube or Spotify following along with Falcon West, thanks for being here. But really kind of summarizing where we're at and where we're going. So one topic that I would like to bring up today is talking about the Academy, kind of where that progress is, and a couple partnerships that we built there. And then, if there's any color that you'd like to add to, just from a team perspective. So does that sound okay?
Sounds like a great plan. Love talking about
Okay.
the Academy.
All right. So, Academy, we're currently with Group 6, and we have 4 rugby athletes that are participating. And I've said, many times, like every group just seems to get better than the last, and this is no exception to that. I mean, our first group, I can remember all the way back to when Maceo and Dustin were in it, and it was very experimental. Like, man, is this thing actually going to work? Several iterations later, I mean, we're still updating the material, but I finally feel like the Academy is at a place with Group 6 where it's kind of stabilized a bit. It's nice to kind of feel that way. We've kind of restructured all the curriculum now to where hopefully you come away with a lot more than the first group did. But one thing, so we're having our first group will be here in we'll start that in September. So we're going to start recruiting for that. We've got already probably about 10 people who have reached out in anticipation for that. We haven't even sent out the formal conversation for it. But one thing I'll note here is that we have partnered with a company called Triline Management. So Triline was born from the rugby community, and it's a recruiting company for athletes. And so when we met up with them, they were interested in sort of how we were screening the athletes that were coming on board. And what they're trying to do is effectively very similar. Is like, hey, we know the rugby athlete, we know the work ethic. We want to make sure that they can kind of pass the muster of the corporate recruiting, right? And then positioning these players the right way to go join other companies that are rugby affiliated. So when they kind of saw how we were doing it, we partnered with them, and they said, like, we came up with the idea together of, why don't you guys teach us, do a session with us. So next week, our very first Triline course will be on how to use LinkedIn properly and how to build a personal brand. So real excited for that. And anyone that's listening, we'll make that available to anyone in our company. But, I'm a big believer in personal brand. whether that's, wearing a local energy hat or a Falcon West hat, or just kind of feeling like you're part of a culture and being part of a virtual company. I think it's important to have like these things, like you got your Falcon West coffee cup or your Falcon West shirt. I remember, the custom shirts that Myra put together last week for everyone in our company, right? I was so stoked to open mine up, and it, had a coffee cup on the back, and it was just me. Like, you guys understood who I was and was able to translate that. So just really cool. If you guys want to take a look at that, we'll have that available for our entire company to view on the personal branding and LinkedIn stuff. Especially for the producers, I find that super valuable. Account managers, just going on our LinkedIn and kind of seeing that's the only social media platform that we're really involved on. And then we'll have our last and final academy group here. When we're going to call it quits with 3 this year, and then we'll do 3 again next year. But anyway, super excited about all that. So
Yeah.
just a lot of words there, but I just wanted to share my excitement, and I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, no, the Academy is again, I think one of the great differentiators of Falcon West. Any industry you talk to them, and what's their biggest challenge, and it's finding and retaining and recruiting quality people to the team. And the insurance industry, I think, is even worse than most industries, and it just traditionally has not done a great job of attracting new people to the industry. If you surveyed our team, I'd say the majority of them kind of weren't looking for insurance, but kind of stumbled upon it either through a friend or a referral, but it's an industry that historically hasn't done a great job of bringing in new people to the industry. And yeah, and with the Academy, it's such a fantastic thing because it's great for us in that we get the opportunity to build out a funnel of people that are just super high caliber individuals. It's great for the rugby players that participate in the program because these are professional athletes that are, well tuned to their craft in the field, but that's something that, by age 30 or so, that's going to end for them. And so they need to constantly, or not constantly, but they need to be simultaneously looking at what is the opportunities for me, whether it's my choice when I retire, or unfortunately, if you have an injury, which is that's just reality. And so it's great for those athletes that are in the program because it gives them 4 to 6 hours a week of flexible time where they can take their mind off of rugby, which is otherwise 24/7 for them. It can develop skills that will help them in whatever field they choose to go into. It helps them just learn a little bit about insurance and see, is this something that could be a career for me when they choose to pursue the professional career. And then again, for us, it's fantastic in that we are getting exposure to these high caliber professional athletes. And with the hopes that some of them, when the time's right, we want them to raise their hand and say, hey, Falcon West, we'd really like to work with you. So that's the model. Again, it's where it is now versus where it started. You mentioned this. It's just blown way past my expectations. Really fantastic program. So kudos to you for putting it together and, kind of always making those little tweaks to make each group a little bit better than the last as far as their experience. Triline Management with Christine Sommers. Just fantastic. Super excited to have her background. She's again, former world-class athlete, professional rugby player, played all over the world, played with the U.S. national team. And now she's saying, how can she help that next generation of athletes with what she's learned? So we're excited to be partnering with Christine.
And Adam Shigam, so we're Christine. We're putting this together. I think he has this. I met him a couple times, as we're developing this module, and he has such a fantastic mind for like putting things together in this really creative way. He actually wrote a book, which I forget the name of it. I apologize, Adam. I'll have to find the link for it. But and he does marketing, and that's kind of his his niche. But he's just such a well-spoken guy. I know they're going to get a lot out of this, and I know Adam put a ton of work into the program here too. So yeah, very excited. And also as we're expanding out, the academy and building more partnerships. I mean, we're going to keep looking for that and building those through, whether it is a rugby avenue or just other companies that are like, hey, we have something that we want to talk about, like RT Specialty, wholesale broker that we work with, came in and actually taught a course on, what is a wholesale market, specifically in oil and gas. So just, yeah, really cool things. And it's just kind of turning into its own living, breathing thing, which is a lot of fun. So yeah, so that's my big update with the academy, is just having that partnership and growing it. I think Falcon West as a whole, we're obviously growing. We brought in two new employees that came in within the last couple weeks. One as an assistant account manager, and then one on the personal line side, and making a couple moves internally to kind of promote from within and bring some talent to the production side too, which is awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. Excited for, and kind of one of the unique hires with the newest person who came on board, Jackie. It was her mother who recruited her on board.
Yes.
Nancy has been with us for 24 years, and her daughter graduated high school a handful of years back, has been working and got herself licensed all on her own. And we're excited to have that second generation, which is not the first time we've had that with our company, but the most recent multi-generation employees.
Yeah. It is really cool to see that. And I think so one funny thing, so Jackie and Nancy, we were at the event a couple weeks ago, and we were putting those cards together, right? Just hand drawing all those cards. I don't know if you remember and my kids were having a blast. Like they had colored pencils and all this stuff. And I asked them, they were both drawing pictures of sunrises, at the beach. And I said, do you guys know that I had looked at their paper and I was like, do you guys know the difference between a millennial sun and a Gen Z sun when you're drawing a picture of the sun? And I had no idea. And I said, well, the Gen Z sun, they actually draw the full circle. And then the millennials, the same thing that I do, you draw in the corner, right? So I'll have to put a link to it, but they literally did the same thing. So it's just kind of
That's
this
funny.
funny thing of like generational differences in artwork and all that. So anyways, I digress, but just saying like, I love our team. I love our people, and we're doing a great job there. So,
Exactly. Fun to see all those new developments.
yes, absolutely. Okay. Well, we want to cover one thing, and we're going to probably keep today's episode a little shorter than normal, but you had a technical topic that you wanted to bring up just to kind of walk through, and I'd love to revisit that here.
Awesome. So yeah, so our tip today is for employers, and then also for our account managers, producers, to be able to explain why their customers should be doing this. But it's the importance of checking motor vehicle records, motor vehicle reports. So, first of all, what is that? And effectively, it's your driving history. So if you've had any tickets, accidents, there's a central repository that all insurance companies will access that will keep track of that stuff. And that's good for responsible drivers because it shows that you have a responsible history. It's not so good if you have a bad driving history, but it's good for employers to know about both good and bad driving histories. And why should they care about that? So a few different levels of caring. If they want to look at it purely from a pocketbook standpoint, these motor vehicle reports are admissible in court. So if you have a bad accident, and again, accidents will happen. If you have an identical accident that's very bad, let's say there's a family of four, there's serious injuries that happened in this accident. And, again, let's say on a low end, that accident could be $200,000. On a high end, it could be $1 million claim for just the medical injuries that were incurred and vehicle damage, so forth, loss of future earnings. If you have so let's say you have two identical accidents, same level of injuries, same level of occupants, same mechanism of injury, same everything. In accident one, if that was an employee who had or a driver, an at-fault driver who had a clean motor vehicle record, let's just call that a $300,000 claim. If you have the same injuries, same accident, same everything, but you had an at-fault driver who had multiple infractions, who had a suspended license, who had a history that can be shown through this motor vehicle report of poor driving decisions, and now you have an employer that either could have known that, or did know, or should have known, doesn't matter which one you fall into. At the end of the day, of course, saying, even if you didn't know, you should have. And that accident happens, again, those are the types of accidents where you read about in the paper that are multi-million dollars, because you as an employer have a responsibility to put careful, safe drivers out on the road, and you failed to do so. And now this person this accident caused these injuries, and it's going to be a very expensive claim. Again, you could if that got in front of a jury, you could, pick a number. That could be 10, 12, 20, 25, $30 million type claim for the identical accident. So, for the first question is, why should an employer care about this? It's because the law requires them to, and if they don't, then they're effectively risking their whole business.
Yeah. We've had that conversation with a few clients in recent history, especially like in the oil field. Because in West Texas, notorious for just auto unmarked roads, drop a pin, we're going to meet you there kind of thing. And implementing that sort of safety program early and into your safety program is huge. And we've had companies that have been in business for 20 years that don't have that are implementing it. And we have some that are started up last year and they already have that in place. And we're seeing really great carrier response when those things are done. So that's the other thing is it just honestly overall it gives you more options when you're going to market and when we're looking for options for them.
100%. And, when should a company do this if they're not doing it? Today would be the answer. And we recognize like this is not easy. And, for some of the clients that we've talked about recently that haven't done it in the past and are implementing it, it's a pain in the butt. It's a lot of work. But the risk of not doing it is effectively, risking your whole company, all that you've built, all that you have could literally be gone in an instant if you're not doing this. Because again, accidents are going to happen. In the difference of having all these checks and balances in place versus not having anything in place and just kind of hopeful is literally the potential future of your company. So,
How do you navigate the conversation that so we have, let's say we have 100 employees and we're going to run
yep,
MVRs. Had
yep,
never done this before. We're kind of stepping into
yeah,
this new method. But hey, we're going to find out probably that one of our employees is, i- has something on the record that we didn't know about prior. Like that's a tough one. Like if I put myself in the shoes of the employer, that's not really welcome news. It's something I need to do. But I mean, like, what does that conversation look like from if I was in that position?
yeah. And it's again that we recognize like this is not, and we'll never be in the position of it's you must do this. You must do it in things that will impact their business. Our role is to tell them why they should do things, why it's important, how to do it. And in the day, it's their decision. But knowing that if they're not doing this, they're effectively going to be shut out of insurance carriers. So there's certain carriers out there that will not provide a quote. And when you're in that position, then it's going to be costing you money because if you're shrinking your pool of available carriers, you're going to be paying more money for insurance on that. But the biggest thing would be go back to why are we saying we're doing this? We're not doing it so you can get rid of people that you've had for a couple of years or a long time employee. We're not doing it to create a bunch more work for your HR people. We're doing it so that who are safe drivers. It is a very difficult conversation, like you said, if you're running this on a new set of employees, and there's things you can do. So just because but the point would be though is that you're aware that okay, this driver, and maybe someone they're going through a divorce and they got a DWI 5 years ago, going through a tough time, but you've known them for 10 years. They've worked with you. They've been a fantastic employee. Those types of situations, we can go to the underwriters and say, hey, here's the situation. This is a long-term employee. And so if that person is critical to the business, there are workarounds for it, but you got to build the case to it. Now, if a guy has multiple DWIs or has a suspended license or something like that, then, there's going to be situations where there is no workaround, or the person is excluded from your main insurance policy and they have to go to one of those substandard carriers. That's a risk because your umbrella policy is not going to go over that, but at least the person will have insurance. But at the end of the day, we're going to give you all the information and then ultimately you got to decide what you're going to do. But to say, man, I don't want to do this because I don't want to know what's out there. Again, that's really a poor business decision and something that, effectively you're gambling your whole company on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, perfect. Well, Mike, I think we'll wrap it up there. Next week, Mike and I are going to, we're intending to visit an Oracle AI summit here in San Diego. So we'll have some interesting things to share from that. You'll get to meet my friend Larry, who I've known since college. I've got stories about Larry. Can't wait for you to meet him.
This
But
Larry
anyways,
Ellison,
yeah, not quite, not quite. He thinks he might be, but he needs a, yeah. Anyways, that's another story. Really good friend of mine.
the other
But hey,
Larry
guys,
from Oracle.
exactly. Thank you guys for listening. We'll have some more fun news next week. And until then, keep after it. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.